Hey there, you fabulous folks. I hope your day has been absolutely awesome. We're back for another exciting episode of What If Naruto Was the Conqueror of the Shinobi World. A big shout out to the amazing author behind this fanfiction and show them some love. You'll find their details in the description box below. If this what if scenario is getting your imagination going, drop a comment down below and share your thoughts. And don't forget to explore more mind-blowing what ifs on the channel. Alright, without further ado, let's jump right into this video. With teammate Kiba, Hinata, and Shino were now on their way to the tower, after defeating a team from Rain Village who fell into their trap. It was a simple net snare, followed by numerous giant leeches that fell on their bodies, sucking out their blood until they were incapacitated. It was a flawless plan, thanks to their experience with traps, and Shino's knowledge of insects in the area. Luckily, the Rain team had the scroll they needed, which was an Earth scroll. Kiba was ecstatic, as he believed that they might be the first team to arrive at the tower. Hinata was just glad that they would soon get out of the forest. Shino was just being Shino. Woohoo. I knew that we would survive this. Right, Akamaru, Kiba said excitedly to his furry companion. Yep. Akamaru barked in agreement. And because of that, we're going to be the first ones to reach the tower. Come on, Hinata, be excited for once. Kiba said to his teammate. I will be excited when we get out of this forest, not before, Hinata said. She's right, Kiba. We shouldn't be overconfident. Why do you ask? It's because it is a dangerous mistake that can get us killed. No matter how small a bug is, it still has to guard itself at all times. We have to make sure that we don't encounter any enemies until we reach the tower. That is the only way that we'll truly be safe. Shino said with his logic. Yeah, I know that. Geez, you two need to chill out and enjoy yourselves once in a while. Like me. I'm having the time of my life. Kiba said with a grin. Akamaru sniffed something up ahead. Sniff, yip. Akamaru barked. Eyes, hold on. We have to stop. Kiba said, stopping his teammates in their tracks. Why? Shino asked. You said we should be careful not to come across any enemies, right? Well, Akamaru and I smell a group up ahead. Kiba stated as he pointed his finger in the direction of the enemy group. Shino then placed his ear on the ground to listen for any vibrations. Evidently, they are 6 people, I think, Shino stated. Alright, let's check it out. Kiba suggested eagerly. Kiba, we're not doing that. It's foolish. Shino said. Hinata's only answer was a silent nod, agreeing with her teammate. Why not? That sexy proctor told us we need 1 heaven and earth scroll, right? But she didn't say we can't take more than that. Besides, if we get more scrolls, there will be fewer to go around, and that means less competition for us. Haha. Kiba pointed out, surprisingly, with some logic. But Hinata tried to argue, but Kiba cut her off. Look, we'll just check it, okay? If it looks too dangerous, we won't battle them. So let's go. Kiba said excitedly as he and Akamaru jumped ahead. Kiba, wait. Hinata yelled out, slightly worried. He's the kind of guy that even the hungriest of insects would avoid. Shino pointed out with a tired sigh. Is that your logical answer, Shino? Hinata asked. No, just the truth. Shino simply stated as he and the Byakugan user went after their teammate and his dog. The bug user and the Hyuga finally caught up to the dog lover, and they are currently hiding behind some bushes. But when they arrive, they notice Akamaru looks completely terrified. What's wrong, Akamaru? Kiba asked his ninkin. What happened? You just stopped all of a sudden. Shino asked. Yeah, something really spooked the little guy, Kiba said, and Akamaru immediately jumped into Hinata's arms for comfort. But what scared him? Hinata asked as he petted the small whimpering puppy. I have no idea. My clan's ninja dogs, including Akamaru, have the ability to sniff out the level of an enemy's chakra. But man, I had never seen him this scared before. Whoever those ninjas up ahead are, they aren't normal guys. Kiba pointed out the 6 individuals ahead. In a standoff, 2 teams, one from the village hidden in the sand and another from the village hidden in the rain. Both teams waited in a wooded clearing, waiting to make their move. The rain ninja was cocky, sneering and taunting the sand genin. They were dressed more for a summer shower than a trek through a forest waiting to kill them. Each team member wore a slick blue and white jumpsuit, a sizable domed hat, and several umbrellas strapped to their back. Do you believe the nerve of these sand ninjas, Shibir? The middleman, midair, drawled, challenging us head-on like this. Yeah, they're a bunch of fools, his shorter companion, Ayu, crowed. The sand ninja said nothing and made no move other than to observe the rain ninja coldly. One of them, Shigure, stepped forward. 2 vertical scars ran along the right side of his face, bisecting his eyes and, at the same time, rendering them useless. His left eye glittered brightly, shining with enough cruelty for both. He had the look of a predator about him. Or someone who very much wanted to look like a predator. The remaining eye glared at each sand ninja in turn. Too bad, kids, you should have picked your opponents better. Now you're all going to die. Finally, Garu of the Sand spoke. In a soft, rasping voice filled with rage and pain and venom. I've heard enough out of you. Let's make this quick. I don't want to waste my time. Gaara was at least 2 feet shorter than the rain ninja, but something just wasn't right about the boy. Great overwhelming darkness seemed to flow off him in waves. He was dressed all in black, save for the white sash across his chest, and the large gore tied to his back. Wild, red hair framed his features. His eyes, lined with the dark rings of sleep deprivation, burned with hungry malice. Conqueror winced. Hey Gaara. He cautiously began, wouldn't it make more sense to follow these punks and gather information first? I mean, if they have the same type of scroll as we do, then we're just fighting an unnecessary battle. Shigu's face darkened. He didn't like these punks treating him like he was nothing right to his face. They were blatantly disrespecting him and his squad. Slowly his hands reached for the 7 umbrellas at his back. Gaara didn't even turn around. I don't care. They looked at me the wrong way, and now they have to die, he said softly. It was then that Shigure snapped. If you think you can kill us, then try it, he snarled. Shigure's hands found the umbrella handles at his back, tore them free with a vicious snap, and threw them high into the air. All eyes turned to the sky. They floated some 20 feet above the sand ninjas' heads, poised like dandelion seeds. Then they stopped, held aloft by the power of Shigure's chakra. He manipulated his hands in the proper signs, as massive chakra began to pour into the umbrellas. The umbrellas began to spin, and hundreds of needles started to fill the sky. And now, Ninja Art, Senbon Rainstorm, he cried. Every needle flew straight and true toward one target. Gaara of the Sand. They circled him from all sides. One move in any direction would fill him with hundreds of tiny points of death. Needles buzzed through the air like flies, awaiting the command of their master, and creating a rainstorm of death around Gaara that cut him off from his companions, who could only watch on. Shigure marveled for a moment at how the boys' squad could watch on smugly, while their leader was about to be torn apart. Up, down, left, right. There's no blind spot for this jutsu, and it's deadly accurate. Shigure waves his hand casually, causing a few needles to pierce the ground at Gaara's feet. The boy never flinched, he almost looked hopeful. A vein throbbed in the rain ninja's head. This had gone on for far too long. He waved his hands, and hundreds of needles came crashing back down to the earth with enough force to crack the ground beneath Gaara and kick up a large cloud of dust. Gaara never moved. His fate was lost amongst the dust. Shigure laughed, looking triumphant. He took an eager step forward to survey the damage and collect the scroll needed to enter the tower. The dust settled, and Shigure froze in mid-step. Gaara of the Sand stood unharmed, not a single mark upon his skin. Every needle had embedded itself within the cocoon-like wall of sand. Tiny motes of sand silently flitted around, almost mockingly. A small space near the front remained open, revealing Gaara's eyes, glittering malevolently. Is it the best you can do? He asked darkly. Shigure was horrified. It can't be, not one wind. That's impossible. He clapped his hands together, going for the sand ninja's exposed throat. Without any signal from Gaara, the sand moves to intercept every needle. Not one touched him. Gaara's expression darkened another notch. A Senbon rainstorm, huh? I have an idea. Let's make it rain blood instead. The rain ninja froze. Never, in the history of his village, had the Senbon failed to neutralize a target. For this boy to have avoided every needle, he just wasn't human. Shigure's teammates took a step back. He shot them a disgusted look even though he was just as terrified as they were. How? He snarled. Conqueror stepped forward. It's a defense that nothing can penetrate. Gaara carries that sand in the gourd on his back, and when he's attacked, he uses the power of his chakra to harden the sand, so that it's stronger than steel. It's a jutsu that only Gaara can do. Somehow it happens reflexively, independent of his will. So any attacks against him are doomed to failure. The wall of sand began to dissolve, melting back into the ground, and leaving no trace of its presence behind. Except for all the needles it had collected and deposited in the dirt around Gaara and a few tiny motes of sand in the air. Oh yeah? Well, we'll see. Shigure charged across the clearing toward the sand ninja, pulling 2 kunai fighting knives from his belt. Conqueror gave the rain ninja one last, almost pitying look. Face it. You guys can't hope to defeat Gaara. Gaara grimaced, the closest expression he had to a smile. Slowly he clasped his hands together, making each sign precisely and pumping his chakra into the dirt beneath Shigure's feet. Sand coffin. Gaara cried. In mid-step, the ground reached out to devour him. From head to toe, he was covered in a cocoon of sand. Unlike Gaara's, which was meant to protect, this cocoon was made to kill. Only a bare patch left his face visible, twisted by agony and fear, and even that was rapidly dwindling. In less than 5 seconds, the hunter became the hunted. Tiny motes of sand flew round his face, occasionally entering his eye. One by one, the umbrellas fell from the sky. Shigure's voice strained as the sand tightened its grip on him. Well, what is this? Let me go. Gaara ignored him. All I have to do is cover your big mouth, and you'll be dead. In response, the sands gathered around Shigure's nose and mouth, but back off after a moment, but that would be too easy and too boring. Gaara picked up one of the fallen umbrellas and unlocked it, holding it over his head as if it were about to rain. Shikyu tried, without luck, to blink away the sand from his eyes. Gaara raised his free hand, and the sands holding Shikyu rose high into the air. The rain ninja struggled valiantly, but he couldn't break free. Gaara looked up at him one final time. He showed no emotion save for a gnawing hunger tempered by malice. Gaara clenched his fist. "Sand burial," he cried. With one last tormented scream, Shikyu left this world. It was crushed into oblivion by the relentless sand. Blood rained from the sky, splattering the umbrella and the rain ninja's horrified comrades. Gaara turned to them. There wasn't any pain. "I crushed him with more force than was necessary, so it was over quickly. The scream you heard was from fear." He closed the dripping umbrella and surveyed the sodden landscape. "The corpse's bitter crimson tears mingle with the endless sand and feed the chaos within me, making me stronger," he whispered. Midair stepped forward, each step an effort to master his fear, to lay the scroll upon the ground. "Just take the scroll. Go on, here." Ayu spoke in a high-pitched voice. "Yes. Take it. Please spare us." Gaara tossed the umbrella away and reached out to the remaining rain ninja. Once more, the earth reached up to hungrily consume the rest of the squad. They screamed frantically as the sand engulfed them as it did their leader, their sanity shattering along with their bodies. Blood rained from the skies. Conqueror walked forward to retrieve the scroll. "Hey, we got lucky," he smiled. "It's a heaven scroll." "Just shut up," Gaara hissed. "It's not enough. It'll never be enough." Seeing enough, Kiba, Shino, and a fear-stricken Hinata slowly tried to get the hell out of there, before they got killed by the homicidal Tsunagenen next. But Gaara turned in their direction when he heard the sound of a broken twig, which immediately made the Genins of teammates' eyes to widen in panic and fear. Gaara slowly approached their direction to investigate the sound, which made their hearts race like it was running a marathon. They knew if they ran, they'll be immediately spotted and killed before they could get far. But if they stay where they are, they will eventually be spotted and killed nonetheless. It was a lose-lose situation either way, and fighting was not an option. Kiba and Shino couldn't do anything but brace themselves for their inevitable doom, but surprisingly, when Gaara was closing in on the bush they were hiding behind, he saw nothing. He looked around further, but there was no trace of anyone there. It must have been an animal, he thought. As he walked away from the supposed empty bush and back to his siblings, he didn't realize he had missed the C-rank ninjutsu that was placed by Hinata to hide herself and her teammates. It was the classic demonic illusion. Full surroundings, which was taught to her by her Jonin sensei. Kiba and Shino looked towards their terrified Byakugan user teammate. His hands were still shaking, as they were still in her jutsu's hand seal form. Kiba gently placed his hand on hers to stop her shaking, and surprisingly it did. He looked into her fearful white eyes, and gave her a thankful and apologetic nod, as he quietly led her and Shino away. With Team Suna. As teammate was sneaking away, Gaara and his siblings were arguing. Well, more like Conqueror and Temari were trying to talk down a ticking time bomb, which is Gaara, since the Ame team he had killed happened to have the scroll they needed, which allows them to just head to the tower. But not so surprisingly, Gaara refuses to go yet, since he has not had his fill of blood. Conqueror tried to reason with his little brother, but the Suna Jinchuriki simply called him a coward. This obviously boils the young puppeteer's blood a bit, but he was smart enough not to start something with the homicidal boy. "Look, Gaara, I know this test is no problem for you, but it's dangerous for Temari and I. One set of scrolls is good enough. It's all we need to pass," Conqueror said as he approached Gaara. "Losers can't tell me what to do," Gaara simply said, which pushed the already frustrated puppeteer to his breaking point. Conqueror then grabbed Gaara by the strap of his gourd. "Alright, that's enough. Sometimes you have to listen to what your big brother says," Conqueror yelled out as he gripped the strap and pulled Gaara closer. Conqueror was finally standing up to his little brother as he refused to be treated like he was a stranger. If only Gaara knew how much Conqueror and Temari still cared about him, despite every monstrous thing he had done. "Well, it's too bad that I don't think of you as my big brother at all. If you get in my way, I will kill you," Gaara said with his emotionless tone. This obviously broke Conqueror's heart a little, but the courage in his eyes never wavered as he continued to have stared down with his little brother, who was giving him a death glare. Temari was starting to feel worried for her brother's life, so she decided to speak up. "Wait. Just hold on, Gaara. You don't have to treat us like we're your enemy. Look, just do it as a favor to your sister. Please," Temari begged, hoping to calm her little brother down. It was a few moments of intense silence, but Conqueror and Temari's eyes were widened when Gaara smacked Conqueror's hand away from his strap and pointed his clawed hand toward the puppeteer, implying to use his signature killing move on his brother. Temari knew she needed to stop things from escalating any further, but suddenly, they heard the voice of someone familiar. "That is no way to treat your big brother, Gaara." The eyes of the Sand siblings were widened when they heard the sudden bubbly voice that was coming from next to Gaara. That voice happened to belong to the mint-haired Jinchuriki from Taki, who suddenly appeared next to the Suna Jinchuriki, and surprisingly, without anyone noticing her presence before she announced herself. "HHH." Both Temari and Conqueror yelled out of surprise at Fu's sudden appearance. "How did you get there?" Tamari yelled out as she grabbed the giant fan on her back. Life finds a way. Isn't it wonderful? I was actually looking for Naruto-kun, but found you guys instead, Fu said in a carefree tone, until she quickly jumped away to avoid the approaching tendrils of sand from catching her. Gar then sent out waves of sand toward Fu, as the tendrils continued to try and snatch her, but Fu was surprisingly very fast and agile, until she finally backflipped a couple of feet away from the sand siblings, landing in a cute pose. If you wish to play, Gar, you only need to ask. I would be happy to play with you. After all, I love making sand castles, Fu said in her carefree tone as she placed her hands on her hips. Silly girl, I have you now, Gar said with his emotionless voice, but his eyes were screaming with bloodlust as he sent another wave of sand after her, and she continued to dodge it. Sensing his siblings were about to take out their weapons to help fight her, Gar immediately stopped them before they could. No, the silly girl is mine, Gar ordered for his siblings to stand down, as his eyes were purely focused on the agile mint-haired Jinchuriki, but his words were loud enough for her to hear. Gasp, Gar, am I so precious to you that you want me all to yourself? How exciting. It is like we are best friends already. Let's celebrate with a hug, Fu said excitedly as she turned and ran towards Gar at full speed, while avoiding his waves and tendrils of sand from snatching her. Tamari and Conqueror were starting to get nervous. This girl is insane. Gar's sand had barely touched Fu since she was surprisingly fast and agile. They were wondering if they should just jump in and help, regardless of what Gar ordered, but then again, they don't have a death wish, and Gar is considered unbeatable. So they decided just to let Gar handle her. When Fu was closing in on Gar by mere inches, ready to embrace him with a hug, his sand finally caught her legs, entrapping her. Oh, looks like you finally caught me, Gar. Now what? Fu asked excitedly, and surprisingly not panicking. Now you die, Gar stated as the sand began to wrap around Fu, completely encasing her in a cocoon of sand. Sigh, it's over. Both Conqueror and Tamari thought. Gar then clawed his hand and pointed it towards the sand cocoon before him, ready to end the annoying mint-haired girl once and for all, or so he thought. Sandberry Gar was interrupted as Fu's arm suddenly burst open from the cocoon and gripped his neck in a stranglehold, shocking the sand siblings, as for the first time ever, someone actually broke out of the unbreakable sand coffin. But most importantly, someone was actually touching Gar. You're wrong, Gar, now it's my turn to play, Fu said as she gave Gar a rare smirk. Fu then completely broke herself out of the sand cocoon and pulled Gar by the neck towards her, with the fist leaning back. The sand could not react in time, as Fu's fist dug deep into Gar's sand-armored cheek, landing an incredibly strong punch, breaking the armor instantly until it finally reached his flesh, sending him flying backward like a ragdoll. However, luckily his sand managed to cushion his fall, but it was still strong enough to leave a small crater. Tamari and Conqueror were completely speechless. Someone actually hurt Gar. And that punch could have killed him if it wasn't for his sand and armor. It seems that the Taki Jinchuriki is far more dangerous than she looks. Behind that bubbly cute smile is a dangerous opponent. Gar. Conqueror and Tamari yelled out as they went to approach their little brother, but he barely paid any attention to them, as he was giving Fu the biggest psychotic death glare he could give to anyone. But Fu, on the other hand, was simply blowing the dirt off her fist from Gar's armor, and giving him a mischievous grin. Teehee, this has been exemplary, Gar. But I'm afraid I must leave now. But thank you for this, Fu said joyously as she held out an earth scroll in her hand. Gar's eyes whitened as he checked a pocket of his robes but found nothing. That little minx managed to snatch his earth scroll when she was close to him. This angered the Suna Jinchuriki even more. He now sees her as a plague to his health. That her very existence questions his. He wants to kill her even more now, more than Naruto and Yujido. I will kill you, silly girl. Gar surprisingly yelled out in anger as he sent out massive waves of sand after her, completely surrounding the Taki Jinchuriki with zero chance of escaping. As the waves of sand seemed to bury Fu completely, turning the forest into a small desert, he then slammed his hand on the sandpole. Giant sand burial. The sand immediately imploded, crushing anything underneath it. Gar was smirking with satisfaction, but his smirk immediately faded when he heard the sound of a cute giggle and wings flapping above him. The sand siblings turned their heads upwards and saw Fu flying above them, with a pair of large wings on her lower back that resembled a dragonfly. Miss me. Now you cannot kill me. See you later, Gar. Fu said with a sing-song manner and gave a cute peach sign as she flew away quickly before Gar's sand could catch her. Gar was seething his teeth in anger. He could fly as well with his sand, but not at her speed. She is already long gone by now. This isn't over, silly girl. I will prove my existence by killing you. Gar yelled out angrily, which made Conqueror and Tamari more nervous than ever, as he continued to scream in the wind. Great, now we gotta find another Earth Scroll. I'm just glad it's not my fault. In a way, I'm glad that crazy girl came. Someone finally knocked some sense into that little brat, but now I have to deal with a pissed off Gar. I pity the poor bastards that will come across later. Conqueror thought. Unbelievable. Someone actually hurt Gar. I guess it's not so surprising since she is one of the 9 Jinchurikis. But out of those 3 we met, she is the last one I thought it could. If she is that strong, I wonder what Naruto or that Kumo girl are capable of. This mission might be more dangerous than I thought. Temari thought worriedly. With Naruto and Team 7. Soon the clone of Naruto was replaced by the real one, knowing this fight wouldn't be easy even for him. Naruto is now standing before Orochimaru, the infamous snake Sannin, the great bane of many of his precious people's pain, the tormentor of the innocent and ruthless attacker of his close friends. And there he was, smirking with his snake-like eyes. Choji immediately went to retrieve the unconscious Sakura, while Naruto stood in front of the weakened Sasuke, and was now glaring down at the Sannin. Orochimaru was the first to break the silence. Kukukuku, well, if it isn't Naruto Senju, the so-called hero of tea and waves. Orochimaru greeted with a smirk. And if it isn't Orochimaru, toucher of kids, Naruto stated with his own smirk. You have quite a mouth on you. Has anyone ever taught you to respect your elders? Orochimaru asked, slightly annoyed and a little amused. Says the elderly man who licks his lips, for kids. Naruto quipped. If you are going to insult me all day, it's best you carry on and let me resume my business with Sasuke-kun. I have no quarrel with you, yet. But if you stand in my way, let's just say you will understand why I am the strongest of the Sannins, Orochimaru said, licking his lips with his long tongue. Really? Naruto said with skepticism. He didn't know how strong the other 2 were, but he doubted this snake was stronger than Jiraiya. The blonde couldn't care less about the porn writer. The man hadn't visited him once so far. He understood the job of a spy was important and all that, but he doubted the man couldn't find a free hour of his busy days, of checking out women in private baths, to visit his godson at least once or twice every few years. The strongest you say, the only reason you're still breathing is because Jiraiya didn't give it all when he fought you that day. If he had used his sage mode, you would be nothing but dust in the wind, Naruto replied with a neutral tone. Orochimaru groaned, a part of him knowing that Jiraiya, indeed, had held back. His grimace quickly turned to a smirk. Well, Jiraiya was always soft and foolish. That is something we can both agree on, Naruto replied, noticing his surprised look of Orochimaru. You know, I'm pretty sure I should kill you right now. The 3rd Hokage would probably shed a few tears for his favorite student, Naruto spoke with a hint of mockery. If the man had simply done his job that day, Orochimaru would have been long forgotten. Kukikuku sticks and stones, Naruto-kun. And how's the old man? Still not dead yet. Orochimaru joked with a grin. Oh, don't worry. He might have a heart attack when I bring him your head. You're going to pay for all the people you killed and scarred, like Anko-chan. Naruto said with some anger in his voice. Kukikuku, ah yes, sweet and devoted, Anko-chan. I notice you 2 are quite close. Tell me, Naruto-kun, has she ever mentioned me? Do I still haunt her dreams? Does she still think about all the beautiful things I did to her, all in the name of science? And threw her away after like she was garbage? Orochimaru said with a devious grin, trying to get the blonde riled up. If you ever talk about her like that again, or what? I fought in the 2nd Great Shinobi World War. I have killed many powerful men and women and mastered jutsus that you can only see in your nightmares. I am the strongest Sannin there is. You can never hope to defeat me. Orochimaru boasted. Never say never, asshole, Naruto said, as he then made a cross-eyed hand seal. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Almost 200 Narutos suddenly appeared, surrounding the snake Sannin, and they all made several hand seals, and took a deep breath. Wind style. Vacuum bullets barrage. All clones blew out a chain of small pressurized wind bullets towards the snake Sannin, tearing the area he was in to shreds, creating clouds of debris and dust all over. It lasted for almost 20 seconds until they finally stopped firing. Naruto and his clones knew that Orochimaru was an extremely slippery opponent, so it is highly likely that he managed to slip away or replace himself with a substitution. And his hunch was right when they saw that Orochimaru had, indeed, substituted himself with a mud clone. Each clone then used their sensory perception, but one of them had their eyes widened when he felt the snake Sannin was right behind him. Orochimaru then began to dispel the clones, one by one, as they charged toward him. Naruto can see why Orochimaru is considered one of the most powerful shinobis that Konoha has ever produced. Not only was he inhumanely fast, but he was surprisingly strong as well. And he was making short work with all the clones that got near him. But unbeknownst to the Sannin, this was all part of Naruto's plan. He knew he couldn't beat Orochimaru without revealing his trump cards. He also needed Orochimaru to create more havoc, and probably make things easier in Konoha for him in the future. And for every clone dispelled, the original will immediately receive their memories. Not only the original Naruto will be alerted, but he will also gain some insight into Orochimaru's abilities and techniques. Naruto then looked behind him and saw that Choji had managed to carry the still unconscious Sakura towards where he and Sasuke were positioned, and they were all huddled up together and safe, for now. Sasuke briefly checked on Choji and Sakura with a glance to see if they were alright. Naruto then addressed Sasuke and Choji. Guys, whatever you do, stick together. I'm going to buy us some time. Naruto said with a serious tone. Right, and Naruto, don't hold back. This guy is bad news. Choji advised. Naruto nodded and turned his head to address all his remaining clones. Boys. Formation Cloudburst. Naruto announced. The clones near Orochimaru nodded in understanding and immediately jumped away, and each clone made a single unique hand seal. Ninja Art. Hidden Mist Jutsu. An extremely thick layer of mist suddenly appeared, completely covering the area, as it was empowered by each clone. How is this possible? There is not a single body of water anywhere around here. How is he able to conjure a mist this thick? Orochimaru thought. Not wanting to lose his advantage of sight and hearing, Orochimaru then made several hand seals and took a deep breath. Wine style. Almighty breakthrough. He then blew out an extremely powerful gust of wind from his mouth, blowing almost everything away like it was a hurricane. Team 7 was holding on for dear life, while some of the clones were dispelled by the blast. But surprisingly, the hidden mist jutsu remains, which surprises Orochimaru even more. Kukuku impressive, Naruto-kun. That was one of my strongest futon jutsus yet, and it should have blown everything away in an instant. So how are you doing this? Orochimaru asked curiously. Formation Cloudburst. It's a battle tactic I created. As a futon user myself, I know a strong wind attack is very effective against Kiri's infamous hidden mist jutsu. Sadly, it is one of its fatal weaknesses. However, I've discovered in a previous mission that the mist can be empowered by the quantity of the casters, but it all depends on the synchronization. And in case if you haven't noticed, clones tend to think alike. Naruto's voice was coming from all directions, leaving Orochimaru unable to pinpoint his location. Kukuku very clever. But a cowardly jutsu is not worth my time. So what will you do now, Naruto-kun? Orochimaru asked like it was a challenge. Naruto didn't respond. Instead, Orochimaru couldn't hear a damn thing. What? Not so talkative anymore. Orochimaru jested with a smirk. The snake Sanin was beginning to be annoyed, as the smart-ass blonde was nowhere in sight and was now silent all of a sudden. But his yellow eyes widened when he realized what the blonde was truly up to. He was trying to use the mist to cover his and Team 7's escape. That clever little shit. I can't lose them. I haven't marked Sasuke-kun yet. I want the Sharingan. Orochimaru thought, slightly panicking. If you think you can go. Orochimaru was cut off, as he literally felt something cut his back. Orochimaru didn't see where his attacker was or hear where he came from, but he knew the blade the blonde used to cut him with was extremely sharp. But the weird thing was, it didn't feel like usual steel. He then felt something cut his stomach. Gah! You little bastard! Orochimaru yelled out in anger. Orochimaru then felt multiple fast cuts all around his body from different directions. It was a cut-and-run tactic used for weakening stronger opponents until they finally made a killing blow at the end, once their defenses were completely down. So he knows the silent killing technique as well. This boy is more interesting than I thought. If it wasn't for the damn Kyuubi, I would have marked him as well. Orochimaru thought. Feeling enough is enough, Orochimaru bit his thumb and made several hand seals. He then slammed his open palm on the ground. Summoning jutsu. From the large puff of smoke, 4 large snakes appeared and began to rampage the area, dispelling every clone they came across with ease, until all clones were dispelled, and the thick mist was finally cleared. But to his horror, Naruto and Team 7 had indeed escaped during the foggy distraction. As he was about to give chase, he heard Naruto's voice behind him. Well, looks like your prey had escaped, Orochimaru teamed, Naruto said with a smirk as she stood on a tree branch opposite the snake Sanin. He was able to arrive once all the clones were dispelled via Harem mark that Naruto had left. Do you have any idea what you cost me? Orochimaru yelled out with pure rage in his yellow eyes. But Naruto merely smirked with satisfaction. To answer your question, I think I have an idea. You were trying to give Sasuke the same hiki you gave Anko-chan, weren't you? Naruto said with a calm voice. Orochimaru never liked when his plans were foiled, but he had to commend the young genin before him. The Sanin really wanted to mark him as well, but it would be pointless, as a Bijuu's chakra is so volatile that it can burn the curse mark away like a vaccine. You're really clever, aren't you? Orochimaru said while seething his teeth. Well, it grows on me. I can't be much of a leader if I wasn't clever. You know all about that, right, Orochimaru-team? Naruto said. Such a pity. You would have been a fine vessel. But my priority is Sasuke-kun and his precious Sharingan. I couldn't get Itachi's, but Sasuke-kun is not as strong as him. He will be mine, his eyes will be mine, and not your Sarutobi-sensei will deny me my prize, kukukukuku. Orochimaru declared and laughed like a madman at the end. So you couldn't get your hands on Itachi, no surprise there. He is amongst the strongest shinobi I know, and I know many of them, Naruto said before he unleashed a strong burst of chakra from his body, cracking the ground beneath him. He then formed several hand seals. Water style. Giant vortex jutsu. Orochimaru smirked, as he wanted to laugh when he heard the name of the air rank jutsu that the blonde had just used. A suit in jutsu of that caliber requires a large body of water for it to be effective or work in general. But his smirk faded, and his eyes widened when a sea of water started to appear around Naruto out of thin air, and it was forming into a large horizontal vortex that was aimed towards the Sannin. Once it is large enough, the vortex immediately cascades down onto Orochimaru and his summoning snakes, dispelling them in an extremely wide-range attack, leaving no chance of escaping, as Orochimaru was swept away by the powerful current. Not even hiding underground was safe, as the force of the vortex was great enough to hollow out the earth beneath, washing away everything in the area. In the aftermath, whatever remains of the forest was devastated, as though some sort of a natural disaster had just occurred. And Naruto was sure everyone in the forest must have felt the seismic quake of his most powerful suit and jutsu. Naruto then activated his sensory perception to check if Orochimaru was still nearby. Unfortunately, he sensed that the snake Sannin was still alive, which made him frown, but when he sensed that he was fleeing, he smiled a bit. He just needs to be ready for next time. Naruto then teleported away in a yellow and red flash. With Team 7 and Team 10. When Naruto and the rest of Team 7 managed to rendezvous with Team 10 at the exact same spot where Naruto left his Hiraishin kunai earlier when he rescued Choji, Ino immediately went to check on her friend, who was still unconscious. Naruto told Shikamaru and Choji to look after Ino, while she provided some medical treatment to Sasuke and Sakura. The blonde Senju told them to wait for him until he returned before he teleported away to the area where Orochimaru was to deal with the snake Sannin. After a few minutes, when Naruto left, Sakura was finally awake, which made everyone sigh in relief. Ino was currently examining the bruise on her head. Okay, Sakura. Luckily, you don't show any signs of a concussion, which is good. However, your head is going to be bruised for a couple of days. But overall, you're going to be fine. Ino informed with a reassuring smile as she summoned some bandages from her wrist seal. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Ino, Sakura said with a soft smile as Ino wrapped the bandages around her head. Yeah, thanks Ino. We owe you one. Choji said gratefully. Suddenly, they felt a seismic quake that was caused by Naruto's jutsu, which made Ino very worried. But she sighed in relief when Naruto suddenly appeared in a yellow and red flash, and immediately went to approach them. So? Naruto asked Ino regarding Sakura's health. Don't worry, Sakura is going to be okay, Ino informed. Good to know, Naruto said, as he sighed in relief. Are you okay though, Whiskers? When you asked us to wait here for you, the last thing you said before you teleported away was, and I quote, I'm going to fight a Sannin. Then there was an earthquake. Care to explain? Ino asked with a deadpan look, which made Naruto's sweat drop a bit as he cowered in fear at her angry gaze. Yeah, don't worry, Ino-chan. I don't have a scratch on me. We just talked a lot, and I didn't like what he was saying. So I crushed him with a tsunami. But apparently, it's not enough to kill him. Naruto said disappointedly. You say that like it's normal. God, you're troublesome. Shikamaru said. Come on, it won't be Naruto if he wasn't. Choji joked, which made everyone chuckle. Hey. Naruto yelled out, as he felt slightly offended. The group laughed at his reaction, which made him pout a little. Sasuke wanted to say something to the blonde, but was having trouble finding his words. He saw how Naruto was able to go toe-to-toe with Orochimaru while he struggled and had given everything to win. And if Naruto's clone didn't show up when he did, who knows what that creep would have done when he was about to bite his neck. A part of him wondered what Sannin meant by giving him the power he needed. The thought of power made Sasuke think of his eyes, his cold eyes as their parents lay dead on the floor, the blood still fresh from their corpses. Will he be able to give me the power I need? Sasuke wondered, his eyes glancing at Naruto. Well, I'm glad that we're safe and together and all, but we should really head to the tower now. Do you guys have both scrolls? Shikamaru asked Team 7. Unfortunately, no. Orochimaru was the only person we encountered beside you. Sakura said with a frown. Which scroll do you need? Ino asked her friend. An earth scroll, Sakura answered. This immediately made Naruto grin like a fox. TSK, lucky for you guys, again, we happen to have an extra, Naruto informed, as he nodded to Shikamaru to give them the earth scroll they got from the enemy teams. Shikamaru then handed the earth scroll to Choji. Wow, how many teams have you encountered? Choji asked Team 10. 3. Well, the third team is just one person, but let's not go into details. Naruto answered, not wanting to explain his situation with Karen and Root yet. This is great. Both our teams got both scrolls. Now we can just head to the tower together. Choji said excitedly, but it was a little too loud. Try to keep it down, Choji, we're still not out of the woods yet. Literally. Shikamaru scolded his chubby friend. Alright, sorry, Shika, Choji said as he rubbed the back of his head embarrassingly. It's still going to be a long walk, though. And we can't really run since Sasuke's reserves are still low, and Sakura's head injury is affecting her balance. They both need rest and proper medical treatment as soon as possible. Ino informed them. That's okay, Ino-chan. I got that part covered. One of the clones I sent out was smart enough to head to the tower and place my Hiraishin seal there in case we needed a quick getaway. So let's skip the walking and hold hands, shall we? Naruto said smugly as he offered his hands to everyone. You don't have to make it sound weird, Naruto, Sasuke said with a deadpan look. They then formed a circle and held each other's hands. Once Naruto had gathered enough chakra to move 6 people, including himself, he instantly teleported them all to the tower. Itachi. Don't move, you're still not ready, a voice said in the darkness. His head still felt a little dizzy, but not something he couldn't handle. The Uchiha prodigy ignored her words. Instead, his hand moved to the bandage covering half of his face. Slowly, he removed it and threw it on the ground. Opening his eyes, wincing a little, it still hurt a little to open them. He moved his legs over the bed, his feet touching the cold floor. His eyes moved to the one responsible for all this. How long it's been? Itachi asked flatly, his voice as emotionless as a piece of rock. The woman rolled her eyes, a bit annoyed. Not even a thank you brats these days have no manners, she replied before checking on her wrist. 3 days. 3 days. That means Kasame should be back tomorrow, he thought, a little relieved. Not wasting time, he wore his shinobi sandals, strapping his sword behind his back, his outfit, and his Konoha emblem. Thank you for everything, Itachi said before throwing a small bag of gold in her hands, and disappearing from the place without saying anything else. Reappearing in the middle of the woods, hearing nothing but the sound of animals moving away when he suddenly appeared. His thoughts turned to the upcoming war and the location of Utakata. It's time to pay him a visit, Itachi thought with the ghost of a smile on his face. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.